Good afternoon, everyone. Those joining us in the gallery and those online for this year's first FBDC meeting for 2026. I'd like to ask on Councillor Hall, who's volunteered to do the announcement.
Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first peoples of the country. We also acknowledge them as traditional owners and custodians across various lands. We pay our respects to their ancestors, elders, children and young people. We acknowledge their strength and resilience of all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Agenda item 2 is apologies, request for leave of absence and requests to attend by electronic means. None known at this time. Agenda item 3 is the Good Governance Pledge, and Councillor Quilty is volunteered to read that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good Governance Pledge. Wodonga councillors have committed to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the municipal community, abide by the Model Councillor Code of Conduct and uphold the standards of conduct set out in the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. Faithfully and impartially carry out and exercise the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in the office of councillor under the Local Government Act 2020 and any other act to the best of their skills and judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Agenda item 4 is declaration by councillors of any conflict of interest. Councillor Aldridge.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, declaring a general conflict on item 6.3 relating to the Board of Trust component. My employer, Ace Radio, is actively involved with this organisation. My general manager has existing professional relationships with members and has previously participated on a grants judging panel.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. We'll ask you to leave on commencement of that item. Agenda item 5 is the confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a mover there? Thank you, Councillor Knight, the seconder. Councillor Hall. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Which now leads us to agenda item 6.1, which is the December 2025 quarterly budget report. Before going to the recommendation, I'm going to invite Director Quill to speak to the agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Gokul. This is the second quarterly budget report presented to the Council for the current financial year. It shows a movement from the Council's initial budget projection of our underlying surplus of $123,000 to an increase of $2.02 million forecast at 30 June 2026. The primary mover for the increase is the sale of land that is being divested across the municipality, and those funds are earmarked in the long-term financial plan for the construction of the Senior Citizen Centre and therefore are not currently available for discretionary spending. The other main variances relate to an increase in grants and interest income, as well as savings as a result of vacancies and workers' compensation insurance, a slight increase in the materials and services as a result of that increased income, as well as some one-off projects. The details of those are in the report, and also an increase in depreciation as a result of the revaluation of assets. As you will see in the report, based on the advice of myself and our manager of finance, the Chief Executive is not currently indicating the need for a revised budget mid-year. And we would recommend the report to Council.
Thank you very much, Director Quill. We have a recommendation before us. Let me move on. I wasn't sure who was first there. I'm taking it.
Thank you, I'll move it.
Councillor Cowan, the seconder. Councillor Quilty, Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. Yes, I move, councillors, that we adopt the December 2025 quarterly budget report. This report confirms that the Wodonga Council remains in a stable financial position at the halfway point of the financial year. with a forecast underlying surplus of 2.02 million, compared to the modest surplus of 123,000 that was originally budgeted. And while some of these improvements reflect grants, interest earning and asset related changes, it also reflects good financial management and oversight. At the same time, the report makes clear the cost growth, particularly in materials, services and depreciation, and continues to place pressure on council within our capped revenue environment. And that reinforces the importance of disciplined decision making as we plan ahead. So thank you to the finance team for this report and the accountability and confidence in the financial stewardship that this result should bring about in our community. And for those reasons, I commend the report to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Cow and Councillor Corsi. Would you reserve? You're right. Reply. Thank you. Any other councillors like to questions to Director? No? If not, I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those. Oh, sorry. Right. Why is that right? A reply? Huh?
Yeah. Look, not much to say other than thank you to the finance team. As the director just said, the 2.02 million surplus is higher than we expected. That's largely due to the conservative approach we take when making a budget. There are very strict criteria our finance team follows before putting any grants or potential gains from the sale of land into the budget. And when they do end up surfacing in the actuals, it's always a nice win. Just like it has already been mentioned, this surplus from sale of land is quarantined towards potential redevelopment of senior citizens centre, which will require a lot more, quite a few more millions before it eventuates, but a good start. And we are at a good point now where we have a fairly good position to predict how we will end up in actual reality with the figures at the end of the year, and also having a look at how we are going against the budget that we came up with at the end of the financial year. Looks accurate. The report is very detailed, lots of notes to every line, and easy to read, and there is nothing that stretches me the wrong way, so I'm happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Corsi. Councillor Cowan, do you want to have any final comments? No? If not, I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 6.2 is the budget assumptions for 26-27 rate increase. There is a recommendation before us, but before I go to that, I'm going to ask Director Quill or Kyle to speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this paper is considering our increase for rates for the next financial year. The first point to make is we're not making a decision tonight on that increase. The decision that is to be made is what figure will be adopted for the purposes of building the budget. Officers have recommended to councillors to adopt the rate for that purpose, which is 2.75%. In considering that, there are a couple of key points that are important. The first is the ongoing rise in inflation and that exceeding the rate cap, which is creating structural pressure on all councils' budgets. The second is that council's existing long-term financial plan already includes making $2.7 million of cuts to net recurrent spending by the end of the 10 years across the plan. And as a result, the further opportunity for efficiency savings or for other reductions in spending is quite limited. And as a result, depending on the outcome of this, there may need to be, especially over time, adjustments to council service or infrastructure levels if the rate cap isn't taken. How obviously the decision to take or not take the cap is a matter that rests with councillors. Whilst we've made the recommendation for 2.75, it is possible for an alternate to be put forward, and there is an ability to use the existing wording, but just simply with a different figuring if councillors would like to do that.
Thank you. There is a recommendation before us for Councillor Mildred.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee, one, note the 2026-27 rate cap of 2.75% pursuant to section 185D bracket 1 of the Local Government Act 1989. Two, adopt the nominal rate increase of 2.38% as the budget assumption consistent with the long-term financial plan assumption of the 25-26, and request that the 26-27 financial plan and budget be prepared on that basis.
Just checking that we've captured the wording of that.
It's but I have the essence of it.
So,
We can capture it in the recording.
great, thank you.
Unless councillors want some clarity around that, I can type that up and email it out.
Does anyone want any clarity on it?
It's just changed. You just changed it from 2.75 on 0.2.
Yeah, and the third one,
And the third one was
do you mind just rereading the third component again, Councillor Mildred?
Yeah.
So no change to number one. Change in the second component being 2.38% instead of 2.75%,
And taking out the alternatives.
and taking out the alternative.
Adopt the nominal rate increase of 2.38% as the budget assumption consistent with the long-term financial plan assumption of 25-26, and request that the 26-27 financial plan and budget be prepared on that basis. Just try to text it to you. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Mildred. I think we've got that now. Councillor Mildred, you've moved that. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Crotty, I'm going to ask Councillor Mildred to speak to that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's a whole bunch of things. First thing is we've had a long-term financial plan that works on that number. We hear and see that the long-term financial plan talks about sustainability and talks about productivity and a whole range of things. So this number should not be foreign to what we're trying to achieve. That's the first bit. The second bit, in the report, a statement that it's essential to raise rates by the cap. I think many of our ratepayers will find that offensive and discourteous, to say the least. I see that as a view of economics that's very reflective of the methodologies and approach that our current Victorian state government takes in terming a high taxing and high spending approach. This principle is foreign to private sector businesses who cannot just reach deeper and deeper into the customer's pocket, like we're expecting to reach deeper and deeper into our ratepayers' pocket. I simply do not support this presumption as an underpinning of our financial management and budgeting. We need to improve productivity and use of every dollar paid in rates rather than to inefficiently just increase rates to cover increased spending. To say that not taking the rate cap is a revenue loss, again, I find that grossly offensive to the ratepayers. It's not a loss. You can't lose something that you don't already have. If you don't have it, you can't lose it. This concept of just dipping deeper into ratepayers' pockets is very offensive and shows a complete lack of connection and empathy with our community and smacks of bureaucratic indifference and discrimination from our community or to our community. And I'm talking about that coming from our council. I'm not talking about that coming from our staff. If we make decisions that are higher taxing and higher spending, then inevitably we're not connected to our ratepayers. Right at the moment, there is a significant amount of pain in our community, particularly those who have mortgages, and not having some empathy and connection with those people is, I find, disrespectful on our part. We do not need to cut services as an alternative. It's not the only answer. We need productivity and resource use improvements, for which there is always opportunity and which households and businesses are required to do in their economic situation all the time. So we need to look to reflect what our community has to do. Fundamentally, what the proposal here is in the image of the Victorian state government, and I don't support reflecting and doing the things, the higher taxing and the higher spending that the Victorian state government has become known as. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Melvin. Councillor Corsey.
I will reserve.
Reserve.
long as we remember.
I
wouldn't mind
Going for the big asterisk beside your name. Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Aldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nobody here is cheering for a rate rise, including me. I pay rates too, and I have a mortgage. I feel the cost of living pressure like everyone else, and I absolutely understand that every dollar counts right now. Councils don't get to set rates based on what things actually cost. We're legislated to stay within the set state's rate cap, and this year that cap is 2.75%. The reality is costs are going up faster than revenue, and that gap compounds every single year. If we choose to go below the cap, it's not just a one-year saving. We lose that revenue permanently. That lower base rolls forward into every future year, and over time that turns into millions of dollars we don't have for roads, playgrounds, footpaths, facilities, and the services people rely on. And with Wodonga growing the way it is in places like Gleneva and Barranduda, our infrastructure needs are increasing. So for me, I reject 2.3% and I support the full 2.75%. It's about being honest. It's about saying if we want the services we currently have and we want our city to keep running well and keep growing responsibly, then we need to at least keep pace with the rate cap. Anything less puts us further behind and asks future councils and future ratepayers to deal with the consequences. I know it's not a popular message. I know nobody is excited by a rate rise, but I'd rather be upfront with the community and make a sustainable decision now rather than pretend the costs aren't real and have to cut services people depend on later. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. We'll invite other councillors. Councillor Cowan.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to foreshadow an alternate motion, please, and that is to go back to the recommendation of the rate cap of 2.75. But I'd also like to ask a question, please.
Foreshadowing an alternative in the event that this fails. What's your question, Councillor Cowan?
Thank you. It's through you, Mr. Mayor, to potentially to Director Quill, and it's about the past financial sustainability study that was undertaken by AEC, and I'm just wondering if you could describe to us some of the key recommendations that were made in response to that ongoing improvement of our operating position, which was somewhat grim back, when was it, 2021?
So, thank you for the question, Councillor Cowan. AEC in their recommendation was unequivocal in their advice to council to take the rate cap moving forward and to cease with the practice of going beneath the rate cap, given the ongoing fiscal pressures that are experienced by councils.
Thank you. Any other recommendations in that report?
There are several other recommendations in that report, and they included making immediate cuts to council's spending, which was to reduce spending by $2.8 million, which was implemented, and then also to develop a financial plan that had council in the black at all points in the future, which hadn't been the case. And as part of that, there's another $2.7 million worth of cuts that are also included in that plan. There were also other recommendations about improving the quality of the financial reporting, which we saw in the previous report. So you are correct, Councillor Footy, in the fact that the recommendation was not a one and done, take the rate cap. It was a range of different items there, but the taking the rate cap was certainly one of the recommendations that was put forward.
Thank you for taking my question out of order.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Hall.
I had a question.
Oh, sorry.
If that's all right.
Yes.
Before I speak. So the question is through Mr. Mayor also to our finance team. In the recommendation and the report which was presented to us prior to the movement that Councillor Mildred made, there was a suggestion to prepare as an option sort of an optional, not a full budget, but an optional report for implementing 2.5 and 2.38% rate increases. What were those figures based on? Why did you, in particular 2.38, why did you pick that particular figure, not 2.31, 2.42 or something? There must have been a solid financial reason for that.
Because 2.38 is the average of the historic rate cap.
Purely based on that.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Cooley. Councillor Hall.
Yes, okay. I'm going to start with the fact that every year councils engage the local survey to go out, the local government provided on their website. They go out and they do an independent survey of our council members, people. And one of the things that came from the 25 survey was that there was a question, rates / service trade-offs. And 23% wanted a rate rise to keep their services. And there was 54% that would prefer service cuts if they had to have a rate rise. So they preferred not to have a rate rise and cut services. And there was 23% that didn't give an answer. So in that, it's very overwhelming that people want us to keep our rates lower. It's pretty obvious, and we should be listening to our community. Also, I'd like to say is that before the introduction of the rates cap back in 2017, our annual rate increases were between 5.5% and sometimes exceed 7%. Over more than a decade, those high rate annual rate rises were very real and substantial compounding effect, like has been suggested the other way, to the ratepayers. At that time, and prior to the rate cap being introduced, the council began also addressed the $33 million debt, had to address that. The Wodonga Council was regarded one of the highest rating councils in Victoria and makes one of the highest in Australia. Our debt to revenue ratio was of significance to VAEGA, which is the Auditor General. In addition to that, we had $18 million in overcharges to ratepayers relating to the waste levy. This was ultimately addressed following the Ombudsman report in 2017, which were corrected through adjustments to the waste levy. And the significant portion of those funds had to be transferred to the operational ledger, where arguably they should have been in the first place. So when, considering these combined impacts on annual rate rise, the debt services, the waste levy charges, it's clear that the ratepayers were subjected to exceptionally high charges during those years. Therefore, when discussing the compounding effects, it's important to analyse fairly and consider both council revenue projections and the historic compounding burden placed on ratepayers. I'd also like to mention that that some of the reductions made during the past council budgets were achieved by eliminating some unnecessary expenditure, especially in operational areas, and by identifying and implementing those savings, we've been able to keep rate rises lower, and that has been a decision that our council has supported. I mean, our community has supported. So,
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Knight.
I just had a couple of questions to through Mr. Mayor, to the director. So if the average rate cap we've taken is 2.38%, is that correct? That's what we're basing on.
So the average Victorian rate cap is 2.38% over the last 10 years, not what we chosen through that period of time.
Okay. So what's our average over the last 10 years that we've taken? Have we got that? Don't have that. Would you know what the CPI?
Can I jump in, Councillor Knight?
Yeah.
So of the last 9, council's adopted 7 rate increases at the cap rate, and 2 of the 9 have been below. So by implication, 3, sorry. So by implication, it will be lower than 2.38. Sorry. Yeah.
And do we know what the CPI over that 10 years was?
Yep.
Or the inflation rate was over the time, I suppose, is that the same thing?
CPI since 2017 has been an average of 2.96.
So we've always been under.
The Victorian
The
rate
average is under the CPI rate. So costs are always going up greater than what we're actually receiving, even over the compound period of the higher rate caps in the. That's all as well. Okay, thank you.
I noticed a couple of quick councillors have asked questions but not made comments. So I'm going to provide that opportunity. Councillor Cowan, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I won't
you did
be.
make a comment.
No, questions.
Question.
But I thought you made a comment after.
No, I spoke about foreshadowing an alternate
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah,
And
my
asked a question.
understanding was questions only, but yes.
Thank you. So I won't be supporting the motion put by Councillor Long-Mildren. I think as councillors, our responsibility is to ensure this organisation remains financially sustainable, and I've taken on board the advice of the AEC report, which I think has been very instrumental in bringing this council back to financial prudence. And I think taking the full 2.75% is not excessive. The state government puts a lot of time into consideration of the rate capping, and they come to this with some justification in that, and they also provide reassurance to the broader community that councils are not going above what is unreasonable in terms of, I guess, burdening people with that additional cost of living pressure. They are providing that safeguard by putting this cap over the council, and I think it is prudent to continue with that.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Also, Councillor Knight, you have questions. Do you want to make a comment?
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Cruelty for her right of reply, I'd like to just make some comments too, and then I'll go to Councillor Cruelty and then Councillor Gilden for closing comments. It's a really difficult one. Really respect the view of councils here. And clearly, to Councillor Hall's, there's a lot of history here with a background of City of Wodonga being a relatively high rate charging council back in the year. But I do note since 2021, I've calculated the compound rate of CPI has been 22.4%. And that contrasts with our compound rate of council rate increases of 11.2, which is exactly half what inflation's been. I note that our last inflation figure was 3.8% and acknowledge that's historical, and we're looking at setting rates based on financial year 26-27.
That's a question on that. On that.
Yeah.
It states, it's in the report, it was 3.9.
I said 3.8. That's the Victorian, not the national. So 3.09, correct me if I'm wrong.
So 3.09 is the Melbourne all groups rate, whereas 3.8 is the Australia all groups rate.
So I'm referring to the Australian CPI. not the Melbourne one. Equivalently, 3.8% is 1.05% above what the officers recommended, and even more so above what Councillor Mildred is suggesting. Now it's $100 million revenue business. If you take 1% over $100 million, it's $1 million we're going backwards in terms of our cost of doing business. And that CPI number to me is not even relevant in terms of reflecting the true cost of this council in doing its business. I mean, our major costs are around labour, materials, power and insurance, and all those items are going up at a faster rate than the annual national CPI. I also consider Wodonga as a regional city and the growth rate. Recent data showing Wodonga being in the top 5 LGAs in terms of inward bound migration. We've got a growing population with a growth corridor in Barrenjoey-Laneva with a DCP that potentially has the risk of underfunding the growth of that particular corridor. I just look at all the combination of our cost pressures, and while I take on board Councillor Mildred's comments regarding productivity, and that's of course where we would first go, we've already got a budget forward plan that factors in efficiency gains of 2.38 million over 10 years. So to look at for productivity as being the source of finding that savings, and most of my time's up, I think it's very, very ambitious. And to me, the only logical conclusion would be then to cut services. So on that basis, I'm not prepared to support the motion put by Councillor Mildred. Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Courtney for her right of reply. Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, finance team, and thank you, councillors, for your arguments and analytics. It's obvious that everybody has done a lot of homework and collected the facts. The facts are given to us in the report and in various other sources, and then used by us councillors, representatives of diverse groups of our Wodonga community to make this final decision for the following year. And the decision that we make is also going to sit differently with different councillors and differently with different community groups. Our wish to continue with the services that we have and to continue to build, to maintain roads, to go on with our very good capital works program and asset renewal program. Our parks, gardens, playgrounds and other facilities are wanted by each and every councillor here in the room. However, it is historically not just in this council, any politician or somebody in the position of authority wanting to increase rates or taxes or collections uses the argument of having to cut roads, schools, playgrounds in case we charge less. And it is usually in case we charge more, and it is usually the wish of the people who are prepared to charge less to continue likewise with providing exceptional services in a productive and responsible and resilient manner. And I'm on the side of the latter. I believe that we are positioned very well to continue with the current services, and we are custodians of ratepayers' money. We are not making money. We are collecting money in order to provide the services. And it is my firm belief that 2.38% will be appropriate. I am going to support the motion. Obviously, I seconded it, and I believe that it's kind of not relevant whether I or other councillors personally have mortgage, children to support, other dependents. It is relevant what our community wants, and I'm on the side of the community who believe that putting healthier food on the table, paying for a child's school excursion, or buying a pair of I don't know, running boots that is probably better placed for promoting the health and well-being of the community than paying more to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. I'm going to go to Councillor Milton for closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we're concerned that we need more rates take now, where does this stop? Do we head higher than the cap to put more infrastructure? Do we go to 10% or 15%, or where do we stop taxing it and spending? There's a whole range of things that come into this equation. Our long-term plan says 2.38% is enough to justify, or it justifies the number on the basis of future aggregation need. Our long-term plan says that's enough to do it. Our long-term plan says 2.38% is our sustainable number. To go above that is to succumb to the higher taxing, higher spending model, and shows disrespect to our ratepayers. Our cost pressures that may have been from our inadequacies do not justify higher taxes for higher spending. If the DCP, as referred to by Mr. Mayor, is inadequate, then that is our inefficiency, and it should not be subsidised, by ratepayers. Our long-term plan says we do not have to cut at 2.38%. It is only required to be higher if we increase spending. So we can make the choice. We can go higher taxing and higher spending, or we can stick to what our long-term plan says is adequate, and that is 2.38%. Put the motion, please, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. With the debate having now been exhausted, I'm going to put the motion to councillors for a vote.
Read the motion again, please.
Councillor Mildred, if you could read that from your phone, that would be great.
The motion is that the Finance and Budget Delegated Committee note the 2026-27 rate cap of 2.75% pursuant to Section 185D1 of the Local Government Act 1989. 2, adopt a nominal rate increase of 2.38% as the budget assumption consistent with the long-term financial plan assumption of 25-26, and request that the 26-27 financial plan and budget be prepared on that basis.
Thank you. I'm going to put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Knight, Councillor Mildred, Councillor Hall, Councillor Quilty. All those against? Councillor Cowan, Councillor Goebel, Councillor Aldridge. The motion successful. Thank you very much. As carried. Thank you. Councillors, we now move to agenda item 6.3. The 2026-27 Community Budget and Financial Plan submission. I note Councillor Aldridge has a declared a general conflict of interest. She'll be leaving the room. Nicole, would you like to speak to it before we go to the recommendation of the motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Goebel. In the 26-27 year, we have taken a new approach to community engagement with the budget. Before building the budget, we asked for the community to make submissions of items that they would like to be included in the budget. It's not, this particular mechanism is not intended to be a community grants round. There will be a separate community grants process that will run after the budget's adoption. In response to our request for submissions, we received 24 submissions in total, and 13 of those submitters sought to be heard by councillors on their submission. 12 of the 13 were deemed to be valid submissions by officers and were offered the opportunity to present to councillors, and a number of those submitters presented their submissions to councillors over the past few weeks. Included in the report are a series of recommendations that have been made by council's senior leadership team, made up of its managers, directors and chief executive. And the intent has been to strike a balance between council's financial position and the requests made as part of this submission process, and looking at that holistically with respect to the submission, and noting that it's not possible to compare one to another. They're not apple for an apple. In many instances, it's apple for an orange or a lime. And inside the report, the details for officers' thinking and recommendations are there. Obviously, it's a matter for the councillors as to what will or won't be included in the budget, and councillors have an opportunity to pick different arrangements, and we've provided alternative wording in the paper in the event that councillors would like to do that. The one important thing to note is that whatever decisions are made tonight are not intended to be formal decisions. This is about what will or won't be included in the budget. Formal decisions about council's budget will be made in December. God, the year is getting away, in June. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Quill. We have a recommendation before us. Councillor Courty, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move, I'm not sure whether it's a procedural motion or regular motion. However, I would like to move to consider each item before us in the recommendation separately and vote on each item separately.
A seconder for that. Councillor Meldrum, would you like to speak to that? I'm not sure it's procedural. That's more of a just.
It's procedural.
Okay. If that's the case, all those in favour? Councillor Quilty, Councillor Hall, Councillor Meldrum and Councillor Knight. Those against? Councillor Cowan, Councillor Goebel. The motion's carried. So we deal with this in order sequentially. So
Can we bring the
If, yes.
So holders.
start with item A? That's what they said.
So the suggested process is because Councillor Aldridge has declared a conflict of interest regarding Water Trust, it should not be returned back for that particular first cab off the rank. We deal with that without Councillor Aldridge, and then after that, invite her back.
Could we just potentially clarify that we go item by item per the resolution? We're going to miss some submissions because in instances where a submission was put in and the officer's recommendation is not to actually add that submission to the budget, it's not included in these items. So if we're going item by item, we would probably actually need to do it for each of the submissions rather than follow the C.
So just for clarification, Councillor Poole, when you meant item by item, you meant as per articulating?
I meant that said as in front of us in the recommendations. Yes. We deal with each item in the recommendations.
Okay. And
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
rather than go straight to the first one, if we want to clarify that, which Officer Quill's just responded, we could have a motion that deals with all of those matters that are outside, because the staff clearly have recommended not to fund those matters. And I think we could probably deal with that accordingly if that's the will.
Can we do that at the conclusion?
We could.
Thank you, Councillor Melvin, and please remind me if I forget. So happy with that process?
Yes.
And not to be too pedantic, but we'll start with the first item actually, which is just thanking the organisations and individuals, that component.
I think we can split that and say thank the organisation X and so. And
individuals who made submissions to the 2026 budget and financial plan process for their input on their ongoing contribution community. Okay. Yep.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to read that. So I need a mover for that. So Councillor Cowan, do you have a,
Well, it is a question relating to how this item is going to be dealt with. By looking at each of these individually, what is the process for doing that, and how are people making those decisions?
so
How can we speak about this paper in its entirety? And that's my point. I'm just concerned that if we jump into the analysis of each item, we haven't had the opportunity.
Point of order, Mr Mayor, we've made a decision.
All right, I'll foreshadow an alternate motion.
Right.
The motion's already carried.
But there's a procedural issue here about.
Mr Mayor, we've put the motion, it's been carried.
I'm upholding that. The motion which was voted in and carried was that we deal with each one of these as listed in the recommendation one by one. I understand your point, Councillor Cowan, but I'm not seeing an alternative to that, given that motion is passed.
Oh, in that case, then we should be able to speak to the first item in its respect to the whole paper.
Just going to do with the first item, and with us just being.
Yeah. Audrey back for that, given that she's not conflicted. Great. Yes. Noting we still don't have a mover or a seconder for that first item.
Thank the organisation.
I'll just wait for Councillor Aldridge to come back in. Councillor Aldridge, we're inviting you back for the first part of the recommendation, which is to thank the individual organisations and individuals who made the submission to the 2026-27 budget and financial plan process for their input and their ongoing contribution to the community. We need a mover for that. Councillor Milburn, seconder, Councillor Knight. I'm going to go to Councillor Milburn, given you've moved it. Would you like to speak to that at all?
Briefly, Mr Mayor, it's great to have community engagement in doing the budget process and setting up the priorities that the council has to deal with. We have a whole range of issues that we need to put a budget together. I note your introduction to most of the submitters in saying that we have a very tight budget and not everybody's going to be funded. Indeed, there's no guarantee that funding would go anywhere. And this is a process of informing the council as to things and projects that might come from community members, which they consider might be worth the council oars considering as part of the budget. In that context, it's simply, this process is simply an ideas gathering exercise for things that may or may not be included in the budget. And there's a whole range of different criteria which council must take into account in the process of determining what goes into the budget, not least of which is the quantum of expenditure available in total in the budget for the whole of the exercise of running the organisation. So, and the priorities and the way it all sits together. So there's much more than just what each of the individual submitters might be having to say about what they think is worthwhile funding. And frankly, pretty much every submission that we receive has some level of merit to it. And certainly fits into the priority system in one form or another at some level. And our decision here is to determine if that gets over the line to fit into the budget process or if it doesn't. So I think it's great that we've got all these organisations putting stuff in, and they should be thanked for their contribution, for their time and contribution. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Milburn. Councillor Knight, would you like to speak as the seconder?
No, well, yes, I do, I suppose. Yeah, I want to thank all the submitters putting in their submissions, obviously, and I think it gives it the best council time is to go through each of these individually and to give them the thought process and of the council as a whole, rather than as just throwing them all in together. So, but yeah, thankfully, yeah, I'd like to thank them all.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Any other comments or questions from other councillors? Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I also want to acknowledge and thank the members of our community and the organisations who took the time to prepare submissions and present to us. It takes effort, courage and goodwill to come forward with ideas, and that contribution is respected and valued. And I further acknowledge the work of the staff in implementing what is a revised and earlier engagement approach this year. This was a different process to previous budgets, and change always requires refinement. These submissions that have come to us, apart from the ones listed in the recommendation, were not just simply funding requests. They included ideas for increased services, infrastructure and funding priorities that might inform our draft budget. And as such, they should be assessed primarily on our alignment with the council plan, I believe. However, we invited community budget submissions early in the process, and we did not clearly articulate from the outset the criteria or weighting that would be applied in assessing the operating or partnership funding requests. And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to foreshadow for that reason an alternate motion when the time comes, if this is not successful, that we allow for a reassessment of the community budget submissions using fair, comparable and weighted criteria to the council that is aligned to the council plan. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Norton, your point of order.
The motion has been put and passed in respect to that.
Foreshadowed an alternate motion.
The motion has been put and passed.
The motion to deal with these individually. Excuse me, just one conversation. The motion that is passed is that we deal with these sequentially in order that they've been listed here under the officer's recommendation. So I'm not sure how in practice if the shadow motion would work.
No, I'm not sure how this motion is actually going to work either, Mr. Mayor, so I'm curious to watch it all unfold.
Even though I can actually vote on it.
Because it's split.
We haven't yet got to this second component of this council order. But you as part of this process.
So it's Councillor Cowan
Well, I think
foreshadowing the thanking.
I think I need to declare a conflict, because if you're thanking all the organisations, that's a conflict.
No, it's not. No.
I'm confused.
I think you're okay. I'm going to uphold Councillor Milden's point of order, and Councillor Cowan, I'm going to invite you to continue. Sorry? Oh, you've finished. Thank you. Any other councillors would like to? Councillor Coulter.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To avoid any confusion at this particular point, I would like to remind that the motion we are talking to at the moment is thanking all the organizations and the individuals who made the submissions. This is what we're doing now, and this is what I'm speaking to at the moment. And of course, I would like to thank all the organizations and the individuals who made the submissions, and particularly those who have come and talked to us in person. But first and foremost, I would like to thank all the organizations, individuals, and institutions that may not be community organizations or community-minded individuals, but organizations sponsored by other levels of government, such as La Trobe University, or organizations that are supported by our neighbors or as such. I would like to thank them all for working towards betterment of our community, for preserving and promoting all good that we have, or trying to fight any imperfections that we have in our community life. Their bid for funding from council may or may not be answered due to our budget constraints and efficiency considerations. But I would like to acknowledge that the request for money is not out of personal interest, is not because they think that paying that redistributing finance is taking money from ratepayers and giving it to them is fair. It's because they want best for the community. It's because they work for the community and they want better outcomes for the community. And I thank them for their hard work. I thank them for preparations of their submissions, and I thank them for presenting their submissions to us. It has been said that it takes courage, it takes organization, it takes clarity and executive ability, and it's not an easy task. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank all the submitters. It takes time and effort and thought into putting in submission to council, and we take that seriously. There were 13 groups or organisations that presented to council in person over a 2-day period. So we were able to ask questions and get to, to find out more about what their presentation was about. So yeah, I thank everyone for that. Our program is very competitive, and the applicants were informed that it is a very competitive funding process, and there's never any guarantees that funding request would be total of the amounts that they request, or even to be able to have any funding given. So because of the pool, we've got to put together a budget. So there's never any guarantees with that. But I really want to thank the people that did put their submissions in, because they are taken seriously. But we are in very tough financial times at the moment, and we've got to put, weigh that up against what money that we have in the allowance to be able to fund those programs. So those organisations. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Aldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's interesting to hear from councillors using language like budget constraints, given what we just voted on in 6.2. I just want to thank every submitter online who's watching tonight, everybody who's going to read about this afterwards. Every submission was worthy, and, after tonight, I'm not sure how we're going to be able to move forward from this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. I'm going to go back to Councillor Meldrum in closing comments as the mover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Put the motion.
Thank you. In motion to councillors on the first component of that. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Aldridge, would you mind? We're now going to move on to first component.
Yeah, so sorry, just to establish what happened whilst I was out. Motion was passed to
deal with
everything individually.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're first cab off the rank is the board, which you've declared a conflict of interest.
We're going through all the way A through to K.
A to K, and once A is decided or not, we'll be inviting you back in for B.
Fill in, everybody. It's going to be a long night.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask a question?
It's Councillor Cowell.
Director Quill mentioned that there were more submissions here than the recommendations actually respond to. So how was that ever intended that we would actually address those decisions or those recommendations from officers that weren't related to financial considerations?
There was a suggestion by Councillor Meldrum that we address that towards the conclusion of K. And that can be moved. So we can move something in relation to that.
How would that look, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the optics. It's something that was suggested.
No, not the optics. How would it actually? How would it work procedurally if there are no?
CEO.
Through the Mayor, Councillor Cowan. These are individual items, so you can move whatever. We're going to follow the officer's recommendation to start with. And then if you wanted to pick up something else that is contained in the report, and move that matter be considered, then you're welcome to do that as consideration of the report.
So point of clarification, Mr Mayor, given that the recommendations don't actually refer to some of those submissions, how will we ever expected to consider them?
So I think Councillor Cowan's asking, given that there's no comment other than that, these are the ones that are being supported by officers and being suggested to go through them on a one by Councillor Quilty. The ones that are omitted, given there's no dollar number, given there's no time period, Councillor Cowan saying, I think it would be up to a individual councillor to move that, Councillor Cowan. That's the only way forward that I can see. Councillor, CEO, and then Councillor Bob.
In the same frame, the other ones have done an amount, firm, and whether it's ongoing, one-off.
Yeah.
In that same framework.
Councillor Mildred.
Mr Mayor, if it would make it easier for you to administer tonight's proceedings, I'm happy to move a motion, but we would need to bring Councillor Aldridge back. The motion, I'm happy to move a motion to deal with all of those items that are outside the recommended matters before us. The ones that weren't included in the council staff recommendation.
If I may, Mr Mayor, the issue is about that having some impact on the other matter. So whereas if you deal with matter A first, it's out of the way because there might be implications about what you do on the other matter that then come back and impact on item A. So suggestion is A, and then you can do whatever you like after that. And that way.
I agree with that, and I agree with the sentiment expressed by Mr Mayor at the commencement of this item. I was just trying to resolve the issues raised by Councillor Cowan.
So moving on to the first one.
Mr Mayor, I'm sorry, I still find this irreconcilable that we've got no recommendations before us in the actual body of the report relating to those submissions beyond the
Section 2, then they're not included.
It went to a panel when the decision was made on.
Staff have not included them. That is tantamount to a recommendation, Mr Mayor.
I've never seen a council agenda consider or a committee agenda consider items outside of the recommendation.
So Councillor Cowan, what we have seen is councillors who wish to move a motion that may be completely different to an officer's recommendation. So my invitation to you at the conclusion of this process is that if you have such a motion, move that motion, and we'll see if we can get a seconder and then put it to a vote on whichever proponent or proponents that you may wish to deal with. That's the only logical conclusion I can make from that process. From that, Councillor Quilty.
Mr Mayor, there is point 3 in this recommendation, and there is a possibility for us to change the wording once we get to it, change the wording and say that submissions not included in the recommendation are not to be included in the budget. And then somebody, for example, Councillor Cowan, if she disagrees with that, makes an alternative, moves an alternative motion saying such and such submissions should be included in the budget, and we'll vote on that. Would that work?
It would work, but it's why I acknowledged when Councillor Milton, when you first mentioned this, Councillor Cowan, that we deal with this at the end after the conclusion today to pick up anything that may be remnant that may want to be included or not in the budget. I'm moving to the first item, which is $10,000 in 2026-27 to support Border Trust. Do we have a mover for that? Yes.
I move that the Border Trust not be put to the budget for funding.
Not be put to budget for funding. Right, budget. Thank you, Councillor Mills. We need a seconder for that. Councillor Hall. Just writing this down so I don't lose track. Councillor Milton, would you like to speak to that?
Mr Mayor, whilst the Board of Trustees are an extraordinarily good community organisation and does absolutely amazing things for our community through charities and other things, I don't believe that we can honestly put that as a priority project for funding through our budget in terms of donation of ratepayers' funds to a charity in the first instance. And secondly, many of the things that are funded through the trust, we already provide certain funding to some of those organisations. So I think in the context of where we are at the present time, that we should not be funding the Board of Trust at this particular time. Now, I'm happy to have another look at that at some point in the future if there's a change in circumstance or a different program or some other things. But with the current situation, I don't think it's appropriate that we use ratepayers' funds for that purpose.
Thank you, Councillor Milton. Councillor Hall, would you like to speak to it as the seconder?
I'll defer now.
Right. Fine. Any other councillors? Councillor Cowan?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll be saying this a lot tonight. I think if we're asking our community to help shape our budget, and we did early in the piece, then we owe it to them to deliver that decision and those recommendations with transparency, consistency and fairness in how their ideas are assessed. And I'll continue to say that across all of these items.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Other councillors, Councillor Knight.
Yeah, I'll be supporting Board of Trustees for $10,000 because I believe that using the officer recommendations on this, they are meeting the criteria of the council plan, municipal public health and wellbeing plan. And I know they're asking for money from other organisations. And, you know, we talk about hard times and that's what they're asking people to look at and be aware of, that there's hard times out there that, you know, a month of giving will maybe make it a bit easier for a family across the street or down the road. So, you know, let's not be Ebenezer on everything here.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Any other comments? If not, I know you've got to write a review because I have to speak.
Sorry.
And I was looking at Councillor Quilty actually, but look, I'm noting the incredible Board of Trust do in our community, and I note this $10,000. It's a quick start, a much bigger round of funding, and I just see such leverage here. I'll be won't be supporting motion moved by Councillor Mildred. I am now going to go to Councillor Hall, who's got a right of reply, before then closing out with Councillor Mildred.
Yes, like Board of Trust operates through 4 legal entities. All 4 entities are registered as Australian charities and non-profits commission, and part of the registration they're required to lodge their annual reports, which aren't the latest one's not publicly available, but they seem to me to be in a fairly good financial position. This is about donating, and I think it's not for council to be donating money to charities. I think that's an individual person's decision or group's decision, but not using we're using council money, ratepayers' money. And as Councillor Mildred did say, there are many of these organisations that they have given grants to that we have in the past given. So it seems like some of it is double dipping, in my opinion. So I think I'm not prepared to give ratepayer money to this organisation because I believe it's something that, as an individual, if you feel like you've got some money, you can donate. I'm happy, but I'm not going to support giving the ratepayers money. Thank you.
Councillor Mildred, closing comments.
Question, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Hall. The money is going to, do you understand the money is going to the development of a
It's a
portal.
question, sorry.
It is a question.
Yes, I realise that, but I don't believe that it's for us as a council to be donating ratepayers' money for an organisation that probably should get their money from individual people, not council ratepayer money. And there's the double ups of many of these services that we provide money to as well. So if that were not the case, maybe we could probably have a look at it. But I don't believe in doubling up on stuff.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan and Hall. Councillor Moore, closing comments.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll put the motion, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favour of the motion? Councillor Meldrum, Councillor Quilty, Councillor Orr, all those against? Councillor Cowan, Councillor Knight, Councillor Goebel, just casting a vote of the mayor. So that motion fails. So, we have an alternative motion to Councillor Knight.
I'd like to move a motion to accept the officer's recommendation for item A, 2A, please.
Second, Councillor Cowan, did you want to speak to that?
No, I'm just happy to put it to the vote.
Councillor Cowan?
I'm seconding the vote, but I am conflicted in doing so, not in a pecuniary sense, but in a process sense. I feel that we're not giving due consideration to all of these in the same way across the entire submission process. But nonetheless, I don't want this to fail simply because we've taken this course of action tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Any other councillors?
Happy to put it to the vote.
All those in favour? Councillor Knight, Goebel and Councillor Cowan. All those against? Councillor Meldrum, Councillor Cleary, Councillor Hall. The motion is carried with the casting vote of the mayor. Thank you. I'll need some suggest that.
Yeah.
Just be mindful also of time. Is there any appetite to look at these from B to K? But I'm not sure the governance rules allow that.
Motion's already.
No motion's been.
Yeah. Now, Councillor Aldridge. Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. And now on to the $10,000 in 26-27 to the workshops. I'd like to move.
Move an alternate motion.
You can, it's no alternate motion, it's no motion. So you can move a motion. Yes.
$10,000 in the 2026-27 budget to deliver workshops for small to medium businesses. For the avoidance, for small to medium businesses, including an opportunity to partner with Business Wodonga.
Including an opportunity.
Or inclusive of an opportunity to partner with Business Wodonga.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Cowan. Councillor Aldridge, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm doing this absolutely on the fly, as I did not expect to be going through this tonight in this fashion. When we saw Business Wodonga's submission, there was definite feedback from the council that we had concerns about funding for operational costs, but a discussion was had with the organisation if they would be interested in some kind of partnership, as they flagged that they would like to do some small courses throughout the year. I would love to be able to see council partner with the organisation in that way. It could be a win-win for both organisations. I know yearly Business Wodonga do a jobs expo, which would tie in really well, I think, with our council plan. in terms of, providing employment opportunities for the community. And, I don't have a figure in mind. I'm happy for that to be guided by council staff or perhaps councillors if they want to continue the discussion in that way, and we can amend the motion later on.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Cowan is the second one.
Yeah, thank you. Look, the report does point to the fact that there is an identified gap in small business capability and allocating $10,000 to address that. Why wouldn't we want to explore a defined partnership with Business Wodonga to deliver these workshops and potentially set up those clear KPIs for the outcomes of those workshops? I think that there's benefit to be had by tapping into the membership of the current Business Wodonga, and I can see great benefit in the partnership arrangement there for that group.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Any other councillors?
A question, please, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Courtney.
Thank you. The question is to the mover and potentially the seconder. Firstly, Councillor Aldridge, you please correct me if I didn't get it exactly the way you said it. My impression was that you moved for 10,000 to deliver workshops.
Yes, but that's
and then you
workshop
said you
as a
don't have
whole.
a figure in mind.
No, for the inclusive of partnering with Business Wodonga for some of the allocation of that funds. So it's 10,000 is the pool.
Yeah.
But I would like to see a partnership be utilised with Business Wodonga. How much of that 10,000 we use for that, I'm very much open to. I would just say that given the amount of community feedback that I know we've all received via emails, there's obviously a lot of interest from this organisation and a lot of passionate people out there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel this is a way for us. We're not going to be able to give them, obviously, what they originally requested. This is something we can do. It's going to be something meaningful and it's going to work for both parties, in my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor.
Just to put, just to put it in really plain English for me, you are not suggesting that we allocate 10,000 to workshops and ask the organization Business Wodonga whether they would partner us to do it as an equal partner with us for free, or you are saying potentially giving some of that 10,000 to Business Wodonga?
Some of that $10,000 to help them run a workshop that we can co-collaborate with.
Like do
So say the jobs expo, for example, we could contribute funding to that to help them get a guest speaker or help them with audio-visual costs of that. Anything that's going to help them attract more businesses to that expo to employ more locals. Or it could be a course on management. We talked about in our briefing about volunteering that to go up and talk.
Thanks, Councillor Aldridge. I think you've answered Councillor Porter's question. CEO, you've got a comment to make, and I'm going to move to Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify my interpretation of this, what the officers recommended was $10,000 and not specifically for Business Wodonga. But my view of that would be if Business Wodonga was available to deliver something that was in the plan to deliver, they could get some of that. Whereas that what Councillor Aldridge has said in my reading of it, and I'm just clarifying here, it's $10,000 to deliver workshops to small and medium businesses inclusive of an opportunity. So Business Wodonga would have to get a component of that, but it's not specified how much of that component, but it would be within the 10,000 and we would have to look to something. So it might be $100, might be $5,000, it might be $9,000. But the officers would determine that as part of an operational process.
Thank you. Councillor Melvin.
As a question in the first instance.
Sorry?
Yeah, I'll form my thing as a question in the first instance.
Yeah.
In light of what the mover has said, this motion possibly doesn't meet the certainty principle. And in that context, the motion shouldn't be accepted. So
Councillor Milton, can you refer to our governance rules where that may, the certainty principle, because some motions do have an element of optionality.
it's one of the
And that's-
requirements for the chair, the mayor, to consider in whether or not the chair accepts a motion at any given point.
Councillor Milton, I'm accepting it on the basis that there is certainty in the amount and the intent, and also acknowledging that there is an element of optionality here, and I think that's okay. If we're going to be so prescriptive to say X thousand dollars to X and Z to Y, I don't think that's. I think it's more than acceptable.
When the motion was first read, I actually agree with you.
Yeah.
It's the comments that have been made since that muddied the water.
Well, I think the CEO's responded in a way that provides some clarity.
Can I just say, the way the CEO has,
Yeah.
he's clarified it perfectly. Again, this is something that has been done on the fly. I was not expecting to have to do this tonight and make up a motion on the spot.
Don't see it as criticism.
Yes.
Oh, no, I'm just trying to justify why I sound like I'm absolutely all over the place, because I acknowledge I am. But I think the CEO has summed it up perfectly.
Thank you, Councillor Meldrum. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to go back to.
Sorry, I'll make a quick comment.
Yeah.
While I can see after the comments and clarifications by the CEO what the intent of this is, I believe that, and especially giving the comments provided by CEO, I believe that there is not enough clarity and agreement with Business Wodonga to include this organization into our into this motion, because it kind of sets it in stone that we will be using and approaching Business Wodonga and will be obligated to do so. However, we don't know, well, maybe Councillor Aldrich knows from her personal dealings with organizations, but us councillors may not have that insider knowledge of whether they will be willing and able and have courses or events suitable to us. So as I'll just finish. So I would say, should this motion get up, we would probably most likely approach Business Wodonga and other organizations as local providers. But to actually sound it in the motion kind of restricts us, kind of ties us to using Business Wodonga partially or wholly, and they or us may just not have the availability to do so.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. I'm now going to move to you for closing comments.
Just want to be able to answer some of the concerns of Councillor Quilty. When they presented to us, we did ask about the opportunity for partnering for events, and they were more than happy to take that on board. And you're correct about what you're saying about the intention of locking Business Wodonga into a partnership with us. That's correct. That's the intention behind this motion, because currently the recommended motion explicitly said this is not intended for Business Wodonga. And, you know, the idea of my motion was to remove that and say, like Matt has more eloquently put, we don't know how much we're going to give them. It's up to our officers to determine, but let's do something with them. We have received so many email submissions from members of this organisation. This is my way of responding to them, saying, yes, we are listening. We can't give you what you want right now, but here's something. Let's build a relationship together and see where this goes into the future. It's an offering. It's something. Something is better than nothing, I think was the language that we used.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Aldrich, for your closing comments. Oh, that was intended as a closing comment.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Aldrich, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Goble, Councillor Knight. All those against? Councillor Milton, Councillor Quilty, Councillor Hall. The motion is carried. Next one is the $5,000 for Wodonga Historical Society. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Knight as the mover, Councillor Hall as the seconder. Councillor Knight, would you like to speak to that, please?
Yeah, just as per recommended, great asset to Wodonga, I think, and it's something we need to maintain. History seems to get torn up pretty quickly these days, so for the volunteer base that we have out there, I think it's a small expenditure to protect Wodonga's history.
Thank you, Councillor Hall, second.
Yes, I agree. Look, they provide, without the Historical Society, we wouldn't have a place to go and reminisce or have a look at our history. It's something we can bring our kids to. It's something that's needed. The society performs a unique and irreplaceable role in our city, and I appreciate the members. They volunteer. There's a lot of work with cataloguing. This 5,000 over the next 3 years per annum is a small amount for them to be able to continue their work. So I don't think there would be anyone in the community that would not be supportive of this. Thank you.
Other councillors, Councillor Aldridge.
Just echoing the sentiments and just also acknowledging the work that Wodonga Historical Society actually do for council as well. They hold a lot of our maps of our city that we just don't have on file if we need something in a hurry. The organisation is somewhere we can go to get the information that we need, and it's so appreciative and just a lovely, lovely group of people, and I hope they can put this money to good use.
Well, thank you, Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for your comments, and Wodonga Historical Society for submission. I will be supporting this motion, even though it goes against my general stance of not expanding too far beyond rates, roads, and rubbish as a council. My belief here is that it takes a political will to preserve the history of a city, and it is paramount to preserve the history of the city, our city and city. And just as Councillor Aldridge has pointed absolutely correctly, Wodonga Historical Society does work of the council, which we don't have to do, keeping all those old maps and a lot of other items and records that are a part of our history and have to remain here and have to remain intact and for future use or admiration. So I thank Wodonga Historical Society for their work. I do enjoy visiting, and I would also like to express my hope that while I can't make this commitment at my where I'm in life, I do hope that people do not wait for retirement if they have the resources and time to join. I hope that Wodonga Historical Society is able to do some succession planning, because we want them to continue for many, many years to come. And my hope that the organization will flourish and will stay there and will continue preserving perhaps some artifacts from our time when they become old. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any other councillors? Councillor Cow.
Acknowledging that there are members of the Historical Society in the gallery today, so thanks for coming along. And I just say that for such a modest investment, the value you contribute to our community is invaluable, immeasurable. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Knight, I'm going to go back to you. And put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item is the pro rata contribution to All Wodonga Food Share. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a mover, please.
Good question before we
need a motion.
ask the question.
So we are to D.
We're up to D, which is the food share pro rata contribution.
I'll move the motion as recommended.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Seconder.
I'll Second, Chairperson. Discussion.
Councillor Aldridge.
Sorry, I switched out. Did you move as per recommendation?
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Councillor Knight.
Once again, we talked about a little bit earlier about times are tough, and then we have somewhere like Albury on the food share. We do a great job. They supply breakfasts to schools and other activities and a lot of food to a lot of homes and people. And I think it's a sad reflection on society in general that we have to fund or help fund. We don't have to, but that these services even exist. But in saying that, I think an $18,000 share for our contribution for our proportion of the service users is a civic duty that all of Wodonga, I think, would be happy to pay as ratepayers, help their neighbours in this tough time. And hopefully we see those figures go down over upcoming years.
Councillor Knight, thank you. Councillor Aldridge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was really surprised to learn during the submission process that almost 1 in 4 Wodonga residents access food share. To me, that is a huge statistic. My question is, $18,000, is that even enough? Could we be contributing more? I'd love to hear from perhaps an officer as to why 18,000 was the decision given, or the recommendation given, particularly over the fires. We've relied on their services. Could we be doing more? Giving more is my question.
Sorry, Director Paul.
Councillor Aldridge, the prorated contribution in this instance is a specific recommendation of the community development team, and how they derived the figure was to look at the total cost of this next phase of planning and look at the usage of the service by Wodonga residents, and then picked up a percentage of that, noting that the service spans across multiple municipalities, and the intention of the organisation requesting the contribution is to ask those other municipalities to contribute, and that's how the figure was arrived at. With respect to whether council would contribute above that figure, that is obviously a matter for councillors to consider in the context of the broader fiscal picture.
Thank you, Director Quill. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Look, there's no doubt that food share do a fantastic job in our community, but not just our community. It's in the region. I think council, as our officer Cool said, that spans over quite a few municipal areas. This money they're seeking 100,000 contribution to get a proposed shovel-ready project document ready for with design details, cost estimates to build a much bigger pond for the food share. I think we did give 5,000 last year in July 2025, and I do think they do a good job. But we have to be mindful that these organisations do have to, they've got to become more self-sufficient rather than relying on councils all the time for donations. But we do appreciate the work that they do in the community.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Melbourne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm afraid I don't see how this actually fits the business of council. But more importantly than the individual of this situation, as much as I absolutely acknowledge what Food Share do is extraordinary in our community, and we should be, as a general community, quite supportive of the organisation. But the thing that concerns me most about this is this is a deviation away from our normal core business, which opens the door to many other organisations of a similar ilk, which could come to us in the similar manner, seeking funding as well. Now, I think council needs to be very careful how it sets that precedent up, because that could be a very, very significant drain on our budget. If we're seen to be supporting one organisation of this nature and others come to us, then how do we differentiate between who gets and who doesn't if we don't have enough money to go around? I think this is a very, very risky precedent, and I'm not sure that we should be stepping down this path. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mildred. Other councillors? Councillor Cowell.
Thank you. Look, I think given the concerns that have been raised around the table, it again reinforces my concern about the consistency and clarity of the assessment framework and what we're looking at here. And really, we need to let our community know that the food share asked for $100,000. So I'm not sure how we're justifying $18,000, but nonetheless, I want to support food share. Again, I feel quite concerned that we're making these decisions without clarity of our purpose or our reason, and I reject the notion that Councillor Mildred put forward in that it is outside of our core business. It very much sits within the municipal health and wellbeing plan relating to food security, and we do know that cost of living pressures do affect quite a significant proportion of our demographic. So I think it is very much, it's impactful and it relates to our core business, our council plan and our municipal health and wellbeing plan. And I'm not sure why we're only considering $18,000, but for the purpose of this process, I will support that.
Thank you, Councillor Cowell. Other councillors? Councillor Coulter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And for added clarity, I will echo the comments of other councillors that the original submission was for planning and getting to the shovel-ready stage A facility for the food share, not it's business as usual funding. So that's for extra clarity. Now also, thank you, Director Quill, for providing the explanation of how we proportionately arrived at this figure. I commend Councillor Aldridge for asking, are we doing enough and can we do more? And again, out of what I said, yes, from personal funds. I am a big believer for people donating personally, not donating out of the money that's not theirs. And hopefully the smaller rate increase will free up for some funds for people to donate to charities of their choice, including Food Share. While I do commend the work that is done by Food Share, and while I was one of the councillors who last year voted in favour of contributing 5,000, I think so. I'm not going to support this one. Not because I don't think it's a worthy cause or that I don't think that fellow residents should be helped. I think they should. I just think that it is wrong that we take money from ratepayers and make this decision. I think we should leave as much money as we can afford without sacrificing the services in ratepayers' pockets, and let them make this decision to which charity or they go with work, with time, with food they cook themselves, or with money that they donate and get tax deductions, for example, to charities of their choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooley. Before I move to Councillor Knight for closing comments, I'm just going to make some comments to myself and some observations. I will build on the food share during the recent fires, and while acknowledging supporting Taylor community, just demonstrated the incredible contribution they have to our community. The statistics that Councillor Aldridge mentioned were quoted by everyone on the food share in their submission. It's very disturbing to hear that percentage, but it goes to the root of the role that they do play in contributing to the fabric of our community. And just referencing Councillor Meldrum's comments about, wanting to support them. This is the second time they come to us for funding for this purpose, which will have a material impact, not the amount, but the purpose by which they want to put to and the operations of food share. And I'll be supporting the motion moved by Councillor Knight. Councillor Knight.
Yeah, I feel like I'm caught between two places at the moment with stuff, so I'm going to sit down the middle. The $18,000 is a pro rata contribution. Albury Wodonga and our ratepayers can't be the heavy lifters for the whole region. Every part of the region needs to contribute, and rightly so. So our share of that $100,000 is $18,000. But on the same hand, to say that we shouldn't be spending ratepayers' money on this because it's not really core business. So I get stuck because we just spent a heap of money on tennis lights and bits and pieces for sporting grounds and things like that. And like this is people, this is community. These are people that pay rates that can't afford to pay their rates and then put food on the table. So like I really struggle when people say it's not core business when it's like this is humanity right here. And yeah, $18,000 is not enough. But there'll be other ways and other avenues that we should be able to help food share. But if they were on one of our footy grounds and they wanted a bigger change room, council would vote for that, and they'd probably support it because it's a council-owned facility. And yet we've got people that aren't willing to support our community and our fellow ratepayers that may be needing this service. So, and yes, that could be used for a lot of other services and a lot of other people could come in and do that. But we have to take each one of these on their own merits and what they do. And as Mayor Goble just said, what we've just seen, not just in the latest fires, but time and time again, what Food Share has done for this community and other communities.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Knight, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Hall, Councillor Goble. Those against, Councillor Meldrum, Councillor Quilty. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Is there an appetite for an adjournment for just a quick 5-minute break?
I'll move that motion.
Have a seconder. Councillor Cowan, all those in favour?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, thank you. Carry unanimously. Thank you for those joining us online. We are now up to the item on Clubhouse Theatre General Operating Costs, $30,000 for 26-27. Could I have a move it? Councillor Cowan and a seconder.
I'll move it to debate it.
For purposes of debate,
Yeah.
Councillor Hall. So Councillor Cowan, mover, Councillor Hall, seconder, thank you. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you. Hothouse Theatre made a compelling presentation to councillors for their submission. They occupy a building in Gateway Lakes, and they're part of a rich cultural mix that Albury Wodonga offers. And Wodonga is very, very fortunate to have that level of commitment in the arts and cultural area. I'm making the recommendation partly to prove a point again that I feel, again, a commentary through this report that says no ongoing operating funding principle, and it has not been applied consistently. In that case, I feel that others have been disadvantaged. But in this case, I'm strongly supportive of providing that ongoing funding to Hothouse Theatre, and I know that it's something that our community looks to as part of the reason that they love to live in.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that there's people in our community and surrounding communities that love Hothouse. But I feel that they're very niche theatre, and we have heavily subsidised them, not only in our lease agreements with them, but also and providing funding for the theatre renovations. But it comes a time when maybe they need to look at their operations and become more self-sufficient. We have a fantastic Q, performing arts centre there that we provide funding for. And I think it just comes a time when you need to re-look at the ongoing funding with Hothouse, and I won't be supporting the 30,000.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I think this is another one of those things that's fraught with risk. I believe we have something in the order of 6 or 7 other theatre groups who are equally as welcome in our community and support our community, and some of those theatre companies put on shows that fill out auditoriums, like quite large numbers of people attend their activities. If we follow what we're saying we're going to do here, then what's the reason to stop all of those other theatre companies coming to us to do the same sort of thing? Sure, they don't all occupy our buildings, and indeed some of them have their own buildings, but nonetheless the principle is there that not only are we supporting Hothouse with, relatively inexpensive premises and significant amounts of funds, I led to believe it was somewhere in the order of $1 million spent on upgrading the theatre, and I think we're already contributing a significant amount to these people, so I can't support this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Milton. Other councillors? I'm going to then, if there are no other councillors, go to Councillor Cowan for closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, Hothouse Theatre is rightly so a niche theatre. It adds to the blend and mix of cultural and arts services that this area has to offer. It is located in one of our fine buildings, the Butter Factory, which provides that opportunity for prosperity and vitality for that Gateway Lakes area. And, we've spent considerable funds already on Gateway Village Master Plan and the projection for that area, and we're wanting to maintain the vitality, and I think Hothouse is an excellent tenant. And spending money on that building was money well spent if it keeps that lovely historic building there for us to enjoy at Gateway Lakes into the future, and that beautiful vitality of that creative arts area. I know this isn't the amount that they were looking for, but I think that it keeps that vital service that makes it a great place to live. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan, and we put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Cowan, Councillor Global. All those against? Councillor Knight, Councillor Morgan, Aldridge, Hall and Quilty. That has failed. Thank you. Is there an alternative motion there? Yep. Okay.
We need to be.
No, just for clarity. Next one is Murray Arts. Councillor Aldridge, would like to move the motion?
Yeah, I'll do the motion as recommended. Do you need me to read that out?
I don't think so, given that it's been published. Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Cowan. Councillor Aldridge, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The thing that I loved about Murray Arts submission is that they were able to show us a clear return on investment. And, you know, it did show us that the small amount that we put into this organisation, we get back so much more. I think what they're asking for, you know, will go a long way in supporting the arts community. And, you know, just given that we've, you know, removed some funding from Hot House Theatre, there's probably an opportunity here for Murray Arts to provide support to Hot House now as well. The thing is, this Murray Arts aligns so well with our strategic priorities. I think it's quite simple. This one, it's not a lot of money for what we get in return.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Cowan.
I'll just add to that I think it is actually a contributor to our economic development in this area for cultural innovation and the advocacy that they bring in attracting additional funds into the area and the multiplier effect of the activities that they support and foster. It really contributes to our overall economy and revenue.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that we are trying to save time. However, I will still make a couple of comments. I also loved the use of return on investment in this submitted report, but not for the same reason. I just love to watch how a purely economic term of how much money you put in and how much money you get in return starts to be used metaphorically. This is a fascinating process. However, it does not, in my mind, show how this particular organization contributes to our economic development. Besides the reports that were provided to us dated, they were very glossy, beautiful paper, but they then dated 2024, so not the latest data. Therefore, I won't be basing my funding my vote on that data. I will be refraining from supporting this funding because I believe it's not. It's a bit far removed from what we as council should provide, and while it aligns with some direction of some of our strategic direction plan, that's not the aspects that I voted for, and I continue to be of the belief that this area of community life should be supported by community directly, and our role as council is to provide essential services cheaply and leave as much money in the pockets of the community for them to direct it to their arts, charities, entertainment of their choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Hall.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to also mention that this is for a 3-year, 3-year funding. So it's not just approximately 25,000, it's for the next 3 years. And I think only being that I didn't support fun hours, I'm probably not going to support this one either. I think these, you know, they're a niche, another niche arts program or arts organisation, and we put a lot of money into our cube. That's where I think where our contribution should lie. So yes, that's what I see.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? No? If not, then I'm going to go to Councillor Aldridge for a right reply. Oh, to close it out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to close up, I'm just hearing the word niche for Murray Arts, and I think it's clear. I think it needs to be made clear that Murray Arts is an advocacy service who actually partner with the Cube. So the work that the Cube does is supported and promoted by Murray Arts. It's one of the bigger promoters, and this is what Murray Arts does. It's not niche at all. It takes everything that's arts and cultural, advocates for them, and brings more money into the community. I just hope you consider that when you make your decision, that they're not actually providing a program, they're bringing the money in to fund the programs.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. I'm going to put it to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Goble, Councillor Cowan, Councillor Knight. All those against, Councillor Melbourne, Councillor Courtney, Councillor Hall. The motion is carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Aldridge. Next one is $3,000 for 26-27, and I'm going for La Trobe University Student Prizes Anniversary. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Knight, the seconder. Councillor Cowan, Councillor Knight, would you like to speak to that?
Once again, it's just an opportunity for, encouraging someone along to finish their studies and improve themselves.
Councillor Cowan?
Oh, well, I think we want our kids to be encouraged to excel in their academic studies, and if we can support and provide impetus for them to do so in this area, also where people might be addressing financial hardship, I think we should do so. But I would like to again point out that, again, this is one of the organisations where financial independence was not considered or cited as a reason not to provide operational funding. And I know that we're seeing an organisation in significant deficit. This is an example again of the inconsistencies applied across all of these recommendations. But I'm in favour of them going to La Trobe University.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Any other councillors? Councillor Courtney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I would like to add clarity by pointing out that in the submission, the 4 proposed awards were not for to promote the the education in the areas of critical skill shortage locally. They were for sustainability and environment, for Aboriginal studies, for outstanding contributions to the local community, which I suppose is okay, and for equity, diversity, and inclusion. My comment is not about the value of those disciplines in general, but about our role in funding something that's not exactly addressing the work of the council and the needs of the council. And while in person, in the face-to-face submission, the representative said that the funds could potentially be directed to wherever the council wish. We are not making it clear here, and I don't believe that we should be spending this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Courtney. Other councillors? Councillor Melbourne?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst I am an extremely strong supporter of La Trobe University locally and more broadly, and equally strong supporter of recognising the successes of students as they go through. The sad irony of these awards is that they're not actually recognising excellence in their studies, recognising other things which I don't consider to be particularly warranting of council support. They don't tend to recognise any of the excellences that our local students might achieve through their academic studies. It seems to be some other set of criteria from the description that was given us on the day that the presentation was made. So because I don't think they're warranted awards, I can't support this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The councillors, Councillor Lee.
Yeah, I'm with the same with Ron. I'm not opposed to the 3,000 for awards, but I have concerns with some of those, some of those awards, and I think it would have been great to, as a council, to maybe give them some input into where we would focus, due to focus the awards on. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Councillor Carroll.
could I foreshadow an
Yes.
alternate motion to this if that, if this?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other councillors? If not, I'm going to go to Councillor Knight. Oh, sorry.
And I'm able to hear the foreshadowed motion, so then I can decide.
Well, I would probably make I'd make the recommendation as the officers have put it, with a conditional upon our advice as to where the awards would be appropriately directed.
I'm happy to amend the motion.
Where would it be?
Well, we did have a discussion on the day of the presentation.
Yeah, so, yeah, we've got to move, I appreciate that, Sarah, we've got a mover who's agreed to an amendment. And Councillor Cowan, you're actually suggesting a foreshadow, but would you be agreed to an amendment so we don't have to go through the
Sure,
process?
yeah.
So we just quickly discuss that amendment, if that's okay. Do we
Yeah.
suspend standing orders, or do we just discuss it? So I'm thinking along the lines that we're happy to do the $3,000 for 2026 for the Trade University student prizes and bursary, subject to council's approval of the awards, or something along those lines. Or
Criteria of the awards.
subject to council criteria for the awards.
So the report actually doesn't specify clearly, does it?
well, it does.
Proposed,
Yeah, that's what they proposed.
yeah, but it's. But they
Subject
also
to
agreeable
council's-
to
Yeah.
to us suggesting alternatives.
Subject to a category council is, but it has to be council laws, not council, because then otherwise officers will make the decision, not council laws. Is that what we're trying to?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that.
Do you want to reiterate that? Your words, Councillor Knight?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing I'm trying to,
Yeah.
same thing, so that the $3,000 for 2026, 27, do we want to include ongoing?
No.
So we take that out. For the Trade University student prizes and bursary
In the categories.
in the categories determined by councillors.
Right, well, thank you. So Councillor Cowan, you're agreeable to those words?
Yes, thanks.
Just maybe councillor Coote
Yeah.
have something.
Councillor Courtney?
I don't know whether it's appropriate for me to propose an amendment that's somewhat substantially different, or whether I should foreshadow. And
Well, I
also,
think if it's substantially different, you'd need to shadow. Wouldn't be classified as an amendment. I don't know what you're suggesting.
I was going to suggest that council puts aside two prices of 500 each to categories that address the local skill shortages, something along those lines.
Okay, not maybe the choice.
So
We can still choose that.
Yeah.
We can still choose that.
Definitely better.
This motion doesn't guarantee,
Can-
but yeah, whatever,
Thank
it's your motion.
thank you. We're going to deal with the motion. There's no other council. Yes, she's already agreed.
Yeah.
So no other councillor comments. We're going to put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Knight, Councillor Milgram, Councillor Audrey. All, and no, it's not, I don't think it is. And Councillor Cowan, those against? Councillor Courtney. That motion is carried. Thank you. We're now on to $100,000 to undertake a municipality-wide speed zone review, incorporating Boys Road, Barranduda, and surrounding road network. Councillor Milgram.
Mr Mayor, Move that be moved for consideration in the budget as a part of capital works.
I'll support that.
As opposed to the community budget contract.
Why not?
Sorry? I didn't hear that, Sarah, sorry.
So it's the speed zone review, so
No.
building and
Oh, sorry, wrong one. I thought we were talking about that.
You're talking about the 1.03 for the Barrenjoey Boulevard.
I like that.
Yeah, sorry, I
Okay.
looked at the next one.
So,
I move that we do not undertake the municipal-wide speed zone review.
okay, seconder, councillor Hall, councillor Milburn.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think there's a lot of much higher priorities that need to be dealt with than actually expending this amount of money on this type of thing. And indeed, I'm sure we've got sufficiently expert staff in this organisation to deal with any incremental events that might occur. This might have addressed that we have to deal with in the short term. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Milburn, councillor Hall.
No, look, I think it's an awful lot of money. I know it is for something that, people can see is relatively important, but I can't see why we can't be using what we've got at present for reviewing those areas.
Other councillor, councillor Aldridge.
Can I ask a question through you, Mr Mayor, to perhaps Officer Schultz? Why, to answer the questions of the council, why can't this be done in-house? Why do we need to spend $100,000?
So Aldridge, there are two aspects. One is resources. The other is specialty in speed zone and speed zone recommendations. This is typically work of traffic engineers. We don't have traffic engineers on staff, so it's a resourcing that say we don't have staff to.
Okay, so just to clarify from Councillor Meldrum's comment, we don't have the staff
We don't have the
in-house to
resources.
be able to do it. No, sorry, rephrase that. We don't have the expertise or we don't have the resources. Okay, thank you.
Mr Mayor, that's a misconstrued interpretation of what I said.
Do you want to clarify?
My comment was for those incremental things that occur, we have the engineering expertise in this organisation to deal with in the short term. And we do have that because we've done it many times in the last 12 months, 2 years.
Thank you. Other councillors? I've heard from councillor Milburn, Hall and Aldridge with the question. Any other councillors? Councillor Allen?
Look, I acknowledge there's 4 submissions that talk about road safety and road speed signs, speed concerns, a whole range of issues. Again, I don't know how we're considering these. I do not know what the criteria is. I'm concerned, but I'm not concerned about the value of the expenditure on the possibility of looking at traffic safety. Don't get me wrong, if the community are watching, but I am concerned about how this comes together. And I know that there are concerns about road safety and speed zones in many parts of the town.
Thank you, councillor Cowan. Other councillors? If not, I'm going to go back to councillor Meldrum for a closing. Thank you, councillor Meldrum. All those in favour? That's unanimous. It's carried. Thank you. 1.03 million for the proposed inclusion of the financial plan to support construction of gravel shared path linked with Barrenjoey to Wodonga. Excuse me.
Okay, Mr Mayor. Move that be put to the budget process as part of capital works.
Second for that. Councillor Hall, do you want to speak to that, councillor Milburn?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think whilst this is an important project and we should be programming it in to do it, I think we need to have that considered in the budgetary process along with other capital works projects and prioritised accordingly. And I think it's important that we deal with it in that manner to keep equity across what we do. And the transparency component, we're talking about capital works. This is a capital work and it's an important one. but we need to consider it in the overall picture of the priorities that we need to address across the whole council area.
Thank you, councillor Melvin. Councillor Hall?
Look, when I saw this in the community funding grants, I thought this didn't fit. Sorry?
Oh, sorry, I'm interrupting.
I thought this didn't fit into this criteria. I believe it should have been a capital works program. I don't think we've had anything quite like that in our submissions before. But anyway, look, it's important and on principle I support it, but I don't believe it should be here, and I think it needs to be looked at as a whole in our budget deliberations.
Thank you, councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Aldridge?
I don't mind what subheader it ends up in, as long as we end up doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Aldridge. Other councillors? Question? Oh, sorry, councillor Knight.
Yeah, so like obviously this is my ward, and it is one of the things I actually campaigned on, and it is a very important piece of infrastructure. But I 100% agree that in these times we have to put everything across a priority list, and it's an awful lot of money for that to be there, and I do believe it should be in the capital works budget as well. So as much as I would love to say, yes, let's do it now, we have to think of the rest of the Wodonga, not just Barranduda, and, put it into that priorities.
Before I go back to councillor Milton, if I could ask a question of councillor Officer Quill, what difference does it make from the perspective of approving a budget, whether it's in the capital works budget or whether it's in the 27-28 financial plan?
So
What are the practical implications of that?
Yeah, to clarify too, so we're not considering community grants. Community grants will be considered by officers under delegation after the budget's approved. We're considering budget submissions, which was intended to be a blank slate for people to ask for items from the council. In relation to these specific items, these are requests that were made by community members. We're not saying to actually do them. We're saying include them in the budget papers so that they can be considered against the other capital priorities. There is one budget which is both operating and capital all in the one pack. So we're saying put it in that pack. There will be another choice, just like there is for every other item, for council to decide whether it's in or out once we actually do that complete build and the draft budget comes back to council again.
So given that, Officer Quill, what's the practical difference? It's academic, isn't it? Yes. Okay. Any other questions of? Well, sorry, Councillor Quill, if I missed you. I thought you weren't going to ask a question or make a comment. So I'm jumping ahead. So
Sorry, no, I'll make a comment. That's all right. I'll make a quick comment in light of what I have heard. I think it is. I actually wasn't going to make a comment because I agreed with what Councillor Mildred and Councillor Hall said, but now that I heard the proposition that it's academic, to me, it's not academic. To me, it's transparency to the community and the perception, addressing the possible perception gap in the community. There might be a perception that we are putting this money ahead of other capital projects in our capital work plan, or like some other points of confusion. It is a large item of capital work. We have capital works of all sorts planned, and I think it should be there for transparency, for clarity, and for the benefit of community understanding that we are seriously considering it, but considering it as part of our capital works plan.
thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any other councillors? If not, I'm going to go back to Councillor Melvin for closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Put the motion.
All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item is the 30,000 to undertake the assessment of the pedestrian crossing at Alban Street. We have someone.
I'll move it. Don't do it.
A mover that we don't undertake the assessment. A second,
Include in the budget.
not include, yeah. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Courtney, Councillor Milgren, do you want to speak to that?
I think there's a lot more higher priority matters that we should be dealing with. We might put that on a list for some time to review it down the track in the future when the pressures and priorities for that increase. But right at the minute, there's a whole range of other things that I believe have to sit far more highly up the tree than what that does.
Councillor Courtney, you want to speak to that?
No.
No. Any other councillors?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll foreshadow and I'll turn it back to the original proposition, but also suggesting that we move it to the capital program as we did in the previous.
Can we do that given it's an assessment as opposed to CapEx?
It's not eligible for the capital program.
Beg your pardon.
Maybe it should be foreshadowing as recommended here.
Yeah.
Good, thank you for that, councillor Cowan. Other councillors?
I know you said save time, but I agree with Councillor Mildred as well. You know, we do have to look at a lot of other things, and I understand that that has a lot of traffic and stuff going across it, but we have a lot of other issues, things like Kitchington Road and the crossings in there as well. So I believe that there's a few more important ones at the moment.
Thank you, councillor Knight. Any other councillors? Councillor Mildred, closing comments?
Just there, put the motion.
All those in favour? Councillor Knight, Councillor Mildred, Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Hall and Quilty. All those against? Councillor Goble and Councillor Cowan. The motion is carried. $2,500 for 26-27 to support the community-led graffiti removal initiative. Councillor Cowan, and seconded by Councillor Hall. By the looks of it.
I didn't. I'm not.
Sorry, Councillor Aldridge.
I
What's
wanted to
getting on?
try something. I wanted to put something out.
Okay, sorry. Well, I saw Councillor Cowan's hand first, so I'm going to respect that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to put forward an alternate motion, and that is that the council requests the CEO to provide a report for a proactive graffiti management program in Wodonga.
Right. Do we have is that it?
But, well, for the next financial year.
Look forward. Putting forward approaches. For graffiti removal for the 26-27. I think we're clear on the wording there. Is there a seconder for that?
And this would have been good to have a briefing beforehand.
A seconder, that lapses, sorry. So we're dealing with this $2,500. Councillor Aldridge.
I put forward an alternate motion. I'm going to try my luck here. $100,000 from 2026 to 2030 to support a council-led graffiti removal initiative.
Wow. So it's 25 grand a year, is that right? Sorry, is that it? Is it even? So,
I thought it was 100,000.
$100,000.
I'll just say every year.
No, between
That's right.
2026 and 2030.
Yeah, so it's a total of $100,000
$100,000.
to be spread over 4 years, as I understood it,
Yep, to clean up
Which is-
graffiti,
which
led
equates-
by council, not by the community.
which equates to 25 grand a year. Right. Do we have a second for that? Councillor Cowan. Councillor, I'm going to ask you to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know I'm shooting out dreams here, but graffiti is such a big issue in Wodonga and it's such an expensive issue. And the only way we're going to be able to fix it is by spending a lot of money. Having $2,500 for the community to come and clean up graffiti, they say it's just not working. And, you know, it just seems, you know, graffiti goes up, a week later it's cleaned up, and then a couple of days later the graffiti's back. I actually think we need to have a more proactive initiative taken here, and it kind of comes into what Michelle's original motion was about having the CEO, but not necessarily the CEO, maybe having council come up with a graffiti management and action plan. And, you know, I'm sure we hear about it all the time. We get emails about it all the time. It's always commented on. We've had quotes ranging in our emails from $150,000 to $250,000. What I've put forward is something that I thought was considerably modest in comparison, but could still, I think, have an impact and show that the community that we're actually doing something about this issue.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Councillor Aldridge. I seconded this. It's a compromise, I suppose. I think I was heading in the same direction, but I guess I wanted, considered costing of a proactive graffiti management strategy for Wodonga, and I still believe that we do need that proactive strategy. I've looked I've looked into this quite extensively. I distributed a report I put together, looking at Victorian councils right across the state, and the approach to graffiti management that works is proactive. It combines that rapid removal with alternate strategies for addressing hotspot management and prevention. While I welcome the idea of $2,500 for kits, and I think kits will work really well, I'm sure we've got lots of community graffiti busters out there just waiting to do this. But I really do believe that it is an important issue to our community. I certainly get lots of correspondence and phone calls, and I'm really disappointed when I see it. We have to get on top of it. It's the only way, and I would have liked to have seen a really concerted effort in as a trial, as a pilot study next year, potentially even spending a bit more to see how this affects our community. It's one of the things we pride ourselves on. Our parks, gardens, our appearance is second to none. It's that point of difference, and I think this is very, very important to our community.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan. Councillor Hall.
I won't be supporting it. To be quite honest, I don't get any emails regarding graffiti.
Your ward's so nice and new.
No, not necessarily. No, but I do drive around town and I do see graffiti, but I don't see it as big a picture as what is, I don't know, being said. I do see graffiti on infrastructure that's not ours, not state government, like, the road, but I don't see heaps that I'm that concerned. And that money I would prefer to, if need be, go into doing some more maintenance in areas where I think we've been lacking as a council. I prefer to go into something of that nature rather than directly on graffiti. So I won't be supporting them, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Now, other councillors? Councillor Courting, then Melbourne.
Just quickly, I also don't, well, obviously I didn't campaign, we talk about echo chambers here. I didn't campaign on graffiti, and probably that's why I don't get, that's part of the reason I don't get much community contact about graffiti. I don't live in an affluent area, I live in a diverse, with a mix of affluent and not so affluent residents. And I also, there is graffiti around, but it never struck me as a huge enough problem to expend this amount of money. Could be a matter of perception, could be a matter of, again, community choice of who to contact about a certain problem. But I'm not prepared to support that expense.
Councillor Wildren.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Graffiti's become a rather significant part of the cultural diversity of Victoria. If you have a look across parts of Melbourne where the different elements of diversity in the community in Melbourne are, you can see graffiti's clearly accepted as part of their cultural fabric or their community and everything else. You see all that sort of stuff. You see all the issues that are associated with that cultural group. Then when you look at it then through the lens of we're required by state government to express the diversity and the cultural equities and the other things that run with these sort of policies that we're put into, then there's a case that could be put that we should be tolerating and accepting of the graffiti. I'm not a person who accepts that point of view, but nonetheless, it is something that we see happening around Melbourne. There's areas of Melbourne where absolutely zero effort is made to not include graffiti or have it within their community fabric. And indeed, some parts of Melbourne, it seems to be encouraged. So it's not a simple straight out, well, we should go and take down the art of the graffiti artist. We could be in crossing the line with some of the things that the equity, diversity and so on inclusion requirements of the state government. Maybe that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, Mr. Mayor, but nonetheless, it applies.
Thank you, Councillor Meldrum. Other councillors? We missed Councillor Knight. Have you got a no? Councillor Causey? Sorry if I missed you. Not. Theo, do you mind just reading out the motion again, just the wording of that? Because I've got a question.
Allocate 100K from 2026 to 2030 and a council-led graffiti removal.
Thank you, CEO. Question to Officer Quill. Would $100,000 over 4 years be a reduction in our expenditure on graffiti management in Wodonga? I would have thought we would have spent more than $25,000 a year. So what's being proposed is actually a reduction in addition. That's not clear to me, sorry, if that's the case. Just reading, just taking the words as are.
Second of one addition.
Addition, yeah.
Thank you. Then Councillor Cowan. It's in addition to what's already been expended.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. I'm not sure I share Councillor Mildren's tolerance for graffiti on public assets without the permission of the owner. And I think of the President of Singapore when in the massive economic turnaround of Singapore. And he created 5 rules for providing the foundations for a thriving and economic development of Singapore. The first one was clean up the rubbish and get rid of the graffiti. It was his first foundational rule. And I can't help but think how graffiti does reflect on people's perceptions of safety and order in a community. So if the motion is to increase the amount by $25,000 a year or $100,000 over 2 years, I'll be supporting it. Thank you. I'm going to put the motion to a vote.
Can I get final?
You do.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add as well, just with Councillor Mildren talking about graffiti as art and culture in Melbourne. And it is, like you go down some of these laneways, I know what you're saying, but, you know, we're talking about genitalia drawings with expletives written next to it and that type of graffiti, which is far beyond any type of cultural art. You wouldn't.
Is it?
Yeah. Why don't we try the theory out one day, man, and we'll see how that works out.
Been to one New Zealand, Hobart?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, one councillor will just put the floor.
That's it.
Can I just clarify my question? So is this for just council owned? Buildings and assets?
We can't touch anything
Yeah.
that's not council.
Yes.
It
I'm
is.
going to put the motion.
Just
All those in favour? Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Goble, Councillor Cowan. All those against, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Knight, Councillor Coulty and Councillor Hall. That motion's failed. Yes. Yes.
That we support the $2,500 for 2026 to support a community-led graffiti removal initiative through the provision of graffiti removal to residents.
That's in addition to.
No.
This
Yeah,
is
it would be.
expenditure.
To the current expenditure.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
no, I think that goes,
without saying.
really don't know.
And this is something.
Yeah.
Sorry. One second. Thank you, Councillor Knight. Do you want to speak to that, Karen, or?
Oh, well, there's lots of people that will get on board with me on weekend and start scrubbing the town clean. I'll be booking up those kits and putting on my overalls, and you just watch me.
Can I ask you a question? How many kits do you get for that?
I think we're getting really into the detail here.
About 50, I'd say.
Okay. Any other, we had a mover, we've got a seconder. Any other council comments? I'm not, Councillor Aldridge.
Yeah, a quick comment. It's not what I wanted, but something is better than nothing.
I'll make a comment too.
Good.
Look, I'm going to support it. We'll see how it goes because it's only for 12 months. And if it's picked up and makes a difference, then 2,500 is probably worth it. But as I said, most of the graffiti I see, and I know there are some on private fences and stuff, but most of it that stands out to me is not on council property. So, but I'm happy to support the 2,000.
Councillor Knight?
And yeah, I've got two. So the first one is those kits that are available for the community, so they can just come in and get a kit. That's correct.
Yeah.
So it may be on private property as well,
Yeah.
and used on stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. I think anything that's community led has got to be a lot better than anything that's council led. And then they can take pride in their community, and it's less likely to occur than if council is going to come around every week and clean off the same person's stuff. So, you know, once someone realises their kid may be doing it, they're the ones going to be cleaning it up. So that's what I'm hoping
The
for.
neighbours' kids.
So, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to support the motion. Just, it's worth it just to see Michelle in overalls, I think. So, I've been cheeky.
It's all right, I'll come and help too. But we need to start in the Hill and Creek one. Sorry.
No, I think it would be a good pilot to Councillor Hall's comment. Councillor Khan, did you want to close?
Just this matters to our community. It's a small token to the big problem.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carry unanimously. Thank you. This is really interesting bit. So it was suggested by Councillor Cowan, how do we deal with some of the submissions that were made that have not been part of the officer's recommendation? And it was suggested, I think perhaps by me, that we deal with towards the conclusion of having dealt with K. Councillor Cowan, did you?
I'd like to put a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
That the remainder of the requests outlined in the submissions and dealt with officers' recommendations be deferred for further consideration at council briefing.
Do you want to just rereading that?
I've made it up on the run. That the remainder of the recommendations inside the submissions that have been made to council are deferred for further consideration at a council briefing and to come back to another meeting.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Cowan, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think the decision making tonight has indicated to the broader community just how inconsistent we have been and that we are still yet to really nut out what our criteria is for making these decisions. And I think the briefing will help to clarify our objectives and we will get better decisions from that process. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Aldridge.
Nothing further to add.
The councillors. Councillor Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cowan, for your motion. Look, I won't be supporting it because I actually agree with you on the process. I think it's important to, not that I supported what we're now doing, the process of doing it, all the community grants this way. But I think now that the council has voted and we're doing it, a set of criteria is necessary and transparency and community expectations need to be managed. But I think it needs to be dealt with in a different way, not by considering the rest of the submissions, but working out the criteria and working out the and putting the criteria and assessment outcomes in the report. And I think it can be done outside of this budget process. Personally, for me, I wouldn't be, even if we had a set of criteria, I wouldn't be taking any more out of the submissions and putting them through the process. I think we've got enough. But that's beside the point. My point is there is no point for us to look at the rest of the submissions without having a set of clear, publicly available and transparent criteria. So yeah, if this motion fails,
Shadow an alternative.
I might foreshadow maybe Councillor Cowan will be better placed to come up with an alternative because she's much better on process and procedure.
Thank you. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Cowan, just to use two different words which have different meanings, and your first word was community requests, your second word was recommendations. So just to be clear, officers haven't recommended anything further. So I'm thinking you're the community requests, community solutions.
All right, well then I'm getting confused because we had this was the reason we were considering further issues now that Mr. Mayor has raised.
I think that's fine. If you want other things that the community have requested, then the word's requests, not recommendations. Because the officers haven't recommended any further approvals. So it's community requests that you're chasing so that you deal with the other matters that the community has requested.
I think I understand your point, which might require a change in wording.
Well, I'm totally confused, I must admit. I'm going to withdraw my motion. I don't understand the objectives now of what we're intending to do in this part of the meeting.
Michelle, so the panel from the officers and the executive or whatever that they picked out from all the submissions have got the ones that they've been recommended to us. So they're the recommended submissions that we've just dealt with. So the ones that you want to deal with are the ones that didn't make it past that panel. So that would be the community submissions.
Yeah.
So you could still make that same motion just using the wording that that was just changed just to community submissions rather than officer recommendations.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that covers it. Yes.
Do you want to have a crack at that wording, or CEO, would you like to on the?
A lot of crosses there.
How about the community submissions that weren't recommended by officers be come back to council in the form of a briefing? Something like that. Councillor Cowan, are you happy with that wording? I'm not meaning to put words in your mouth, but I'm just trying to help.
I'm pretty anxious about it. I'm going to withdraw my my motion. I don't
make a motion then. The community submissions that haven't been dealt with tonight that were submitted be brought back to a briefing, please. We can't make decisions in a briefing, so
No, it's just
to be discussed, wasn't it?
Well, it's just to find out the criteria. That was my understanding.
Further consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Knight, you've moved that. Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Knight, did you want to talk to that?
No, happy to.
Councillor Knight, did you want to talk to that?
No, I'm not.
Any other councillor comments? Councillor Hall.
I'm only supporting it because I think they've gone through the panel, they've assessed it, and I believe we're making the decision tonight, and so that's my reason for not. The report clearly goes through all the reasons for not supporting the submissions, and so I don't see a need to go back home again.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Any other councillors? Councillor Mildred?
Firstly, The decision making tonight has been very good, transparent decision making, with councillors taking responsibility for decisions on ratepayer funds expenditure. So I think tonight's been a really productive night. I respect the officers' agreement at this level, assessment, at this level, and would not see further merit in looking at the balance of submissions again. And I'd foreshadow another motion to that effect if this motion doesn't succeed.
Right. Could you give some flavour to that? What that alternative might be if this doesn't?
That motion might be words similar to the effect that those submissions not included in A to K in tonight's agenda not be proceeded further in budget deliberations.
Okay. So we have a motion that's moved by Josh. Josh, did you want to have any closing comments?
Maybe just
Do you want to, sorry, I see how I wanted to make a comment.
Raising the original issue around time constraints in the budget process. So if this thing goes off to a workshop, it comes on to an FBDC meeting to consider in our budget process, we're blowing out our timelines and we have a set date that we have to adopt the budget by. So I'm just making that clear.
Thank you, Councillor Knight.
I'd like to thank all the officers and the executive for sitting down and doing all this, and I would like to make it, I'm trying to support Councillor Cowan to get across this. But I also agree with Councillor Mildred in regards that it has been dealt with at one stage, but leave it at that. Let's go.
Thank you. Put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Knight.
Oh, we didn't get to speak procedurally to the motion as it was put in the amendment. No, but you
withdrew. It was a new motion. You withdrew your motion.
Yes, and we can get to speak. You didn't ask everyone if they were.
I did. Sorry, Councillor Cowan. I asked a number of
You want
times.
to say I'm putting that, but
But I looked around, no one's had their hand up. No one's got their hand up. No one's got their hand up.
But I didn't realise he was summing up because he just, it sounded like a continuation of the discussion that you'd been having across the table.
Mr. Mayor, irrespective, the debate's been closed by the mover of the motion.
Yeah. Councillor Cowan, I generally felt that I provided ample opportunity for every councillor to make a comment or a question before moving to Councillor Knight. And then when I moved to Councillor Knight, I did say.
Who seconded Councillor Knight's motion?
Councillor Aldridge did. So we're going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Aldridge, Councillor Goble. Those against? Councillor Courtney, Councillor Hall, Councillor Knight and Councillor Mildred. That has.
Okay.
So did you have your hand up, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Cowan.
Move as I foreshadowed, I think the CEO wrote it down.
Do you mind reading it again?
That the submissions not dealt with, the submissions included in A to K in tonight's meeting, not included in A to K in tonight's meeting, not be proceeded in further budget deliberations.
This is moved by Councillor Mildred and seconded, please. Councillor Knight. Councillor Mildred.
The motion's made by Becky.
Councillor Knight.
Isn't that right?
All those in favour of putting it to the motion, so that is a procedural motion.
That is.
Technically. Councillor Knight.
Procedure to go.
It's a procedural motion. So Councillor Knight, Councillor Mildred, Aldridge, Goble, Hall and Quilty. Those against? Councillor Cowan. We're going to put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Knight, Councillor Mildred, Hall and Quilty. Those against? Councillor Aldridge, Goble and Cowan. The motion's Carried, thank you. And then the third component is confirming that the requests outlined in all the ones that we've just dealt with relate to proposed inclusions in the 26-27 draft budget and financial plan only, and do not constitute approvals, noting that any approvals remain at council's discretion and are scheduled to be considered at the meeting in June. Is that a move? You're moving as recommended?
Sorry,
You can speak, Mr.
sorry, I think we needed slightly different wording to that to address the fact that some items above didn't get through.
You can move something there. We haven't dealt with that. Are you happy for?
Yes, happy to remove. Yeah.
Councillor Mildred?
I think confirms that the accepted requests and delete in point two. Accepted requests.
Yeah.
Relate to proposed inclusions, blah, blah, blah. Everything else will be okay, I think. So confirms that the accepted requests.
Yeah. In point two.
Happy to second that. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. Just provide additional clarity. So a mover, seconder? Is it seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor Knight, do you want to speak to that at all? Councillor Knight?
Another procedural.
Well, I was going to actually ask if any other councillors wanted to speak to it. Councillor Carroll?
Thank you. I think the way we've considered these things tonight, we've not applied a consistent set of funding principles across all of our applicants and across all of the submissions, and our community expects fairness, clarity and consistency, and that's a standard we should hold ourselves to. I will not be supporting this motion simply because I want to make the point that I think that we've not conducted a process that we can defend. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall?
I would just like to thank the staff and the panel that put through the recommendations and the reasons for or not supporting it in the report. I believe it has gone through a process. That's the process of our panel, and then decision is left to the council to decide whether they include or not include in the final outcome. And yes, so I want to just thank the staff for all the work, because there's a lot of work involved in going through a report. So
Good, thank you. Any other? Councillor Aldridge?
Mr. Mayor, I really haven't enjoyed this process at all tonight, and I hope we can take away some learnings for next year's budget from this. I worry about the transparency that's come through from tonight. I feel like we perhaps haven't made decisions that we've been fully briefed on, and that concerns me. And my hope is that we can do better next time, sincerely. But thank you to the officers for all their work behind the scenes for this one. It's a brand new process, and I think we've learned a lot tonight.
Councillor, thank you, Councillor Aldridge. Councillor Mildred?
To close.
Sorry?
To close.
I was actually going to make a comment.
Oh,
if
okay.
that's okay. No, it's all right. I think the metaphor or analogy of making a sausage comes to mind here, and I think it's been a bit awkward and a little bit ugly. And I think the missing piece here has been an opportunity, once the officers have gone through their due diligence and their process, to really socialise that with councillors in a briefing to get better understanding around the rationale, criteria, reasons for exceptions and otherwise. That's the missing piece here for me. I'm a big believer in, once consensus is made, to fall behind that. I'm supportive of the decisions that have been resolved, irrespective of whether they were contrary to what I voted for. But I think going forward, we need, as a principle, that when items, agenda items of this complexity or difficulty and importance are coming to council in either a briefing or a council meeting, a committee meeting or a council meeting that we have a briefing. And that was the missing step here. And I think a significant learning opportunity for our next one. I do appreciate some councils think that this has been very transparent and good, a good process, but I think, yeah, I don't think that is it's certainly not a unanimous view. I'm going to move to Councillor Mildred as the mover for closing comments.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Contrary to the sentiments that I've just heard from a couple of councillors, I think tonight has been a breath of fresh air and a move back to councillors taking responsibility for making decisions in the organisation, and for doing so in a manner where every decision that was made by each individual councillor sits with that councillor, and if that councillor felt that they didn't have adequate information, then it's up to us to find other ways and then the individual councillor to pursue that. I think we put too much credence on the recommendations of officers and to the processes of briefing. I am not a huge supporter of the briefing process. I much prefer the open, transparent methodologies of the past, where we had committee meetings and the like, which exposed the whole impact of decision making to the community. We talk about transparency, but in my opinion, we don't actually act it when we go back behind closed doors to build consensus or to discuss different elements of things. That transparency, in my opinion, should be held within the council chamber, within the committee meetings, or within the full council meetings, and or both. And to me, tonight's exercise has been a really clear exercise in councillors being put in a position where they have to take responsibility for what we decide and what we say and do. And I think that's a breath of fresh air, and it's a great thing for moving forward with the transparency and accountability aspects of what we do as councillors. And to that end, thank you, Mr Mayor. Put the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mildred. Bring the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Knight, Mildred, Aldridge, Global, Paul Quilty. Those against? Councillor Cowler. The motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Which now leads us to agenda item 17, confidential business. There is none, thank goodness. And on agenda item 8 is chair to close the meeting. So if I could declare the meeting at 8:53 and thank staff for their work and